Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Got several things to cover today. Just a busy day. Well, it's that way all the time. I said yesterday or the day before that, when I first started this channel, there were times that I had to really struggle with trying to come up with a topic every day. It's kind of like writing an article every day or a story every day. It took a little bit sometimes to come up with something to talk about. But now it's just trying to choose which topic to talk about because there's so much going on. And some of you may roll your eyes, but I believe it's because we are in the midst of a collapse. We may be somewhat early on in that process, but we are in the midst of it, and that's why we're seeing all this stuff happening. And it's starting to happen at a more intensity and a greater speed, which is something that Joe Biden was supposed to do anyways for the Great Reset. But that's another subject. Before I get started, I have some kind of local housekeeping stuff to talk about. So if you're not locally, just go ahead and watch. It's okay. I'll run through it as fast as I can. Our next local meeting has been scheduled. It is July 17th. That is on a Sunday. We always have them on Sunday afternoons. The meeting starts at 2 p.m. Doors open at noon. People can come and mingle and get to know each other and network. That's really the biggest part of the meeting. Now this one, I'm still working on the details. I was hoping to have it all kind of ironed out by the time of this video, but I've been playing phone tag with a gentleman that is a potential to speak. He'll either speak at this month or next month, but he is going to speak. Actually put on a class, and this one will be really exciting. And I'll let you know here in the next day or so if it's confirmed this month or next month. But he is a dentist, and he's going to come and teach a class on emergency dentistry or battlefield dentistry, how to put together kind of a little kit, because I'm telling you, in all of you that's ever had problems with your teeth or a bad tooth or anything like that, it's painful. And the fact is you can die from it. And so if everything starts collapsing, something happens and you can't get to a dentist, you could be in a real bad shape. So this guy is a board certified, a practicing dentist, and he's going to come and teach us a class on that. And if that doesn't work out this month, I do have a ham radio class lined up. But that's for you local folks. If you're interested in coming, if you've never been before, shoot me an email, and I'll work out the details to you. It is open to the public. Some of the other local stuff, I put out a monthly, and this is for those of you that you either come to the meeting, or maybe you're wanting to come to the meeting, or you're just local people. Local meaning here in the Missouri, central Missouri, north central Arkansas, Ozarks. I put out a monthly newsletter, and I'm going to leave a link down below where you can subscribe to that newsletter. And all the newsletter is to let you know when the meeting is, kind of what's going on. I usually do a second one after the meeting to kind of do a recap for those that didn't make it. We put anything in there of, updated stuff going on in our area. If we're doing a work day at someone's house. I'm also starting to put at the bottom prayer requests. So for those that want to share a prayer request with the community, you don't even have to give details. You can just say, remember an unspoken prayer request or something like that. I'm going to put this out there, and I know that some of you are going to say, man, all these people that aren't from your area might sign up. There's no real point if you're not from the area to sign up. We're not sharing any kind of intricate details or top secret information on this. It's just a little very short email that I send out to people. And if you're in the local area and you would like to get that so that you can stay on top of anything that we do here as a local group, there'll be a link in the description below for that, so that you can sign up for that. And something else that we're working on, and again, this is really for local people. If you're not locally, it's really not going to do you any good to click on the link. But we're putting together a sort of business directory. This is places, and the original idea is for people that are new to the area, that are new to homesteading and prepping into the area. It would help them get a jump start of some of the better places to find better deals for the homesteading and prepping lifestyle. And it's been kind of expanding from that. Anyone that has local businesses, any kind of business owner within our group can put their names down. If you're aware of doctors or veterinarians that are medical freedom or just natural focused in their practice, you know, good places to shop, good places to stock up on bulk foods. You know, there's a lot of Amish places, stores and stuff there, people that hand make things, anything like that. And so we're putting that in, and I will share a live link, meaning that every time I update it, it'll update that link. And like I said, if you're not from this area, it's probably not going to do you any good, because there's not much there that's going to help you. But that's also something that we're doing. And then last, one of the projects that we're working on, that we've started working on, is we're trying to come up with a cargo trailer, and this will be a multi-purpose cargo trailer. One of the first things that I thought of when we needed this is that when we have these events, you know, I store everything. My wife and I, we store everything at our house, and then we have to transport it. You know, paper plates, cups, napkins, food, equipment that we use, speakers, microphones. You know, there's a lot of stuff, right? And it's growing as the group and everything grows. First aid, you know, we have a little first aid kit in case someone gets injured and that kind of stuff. And it's getting to the point that it's taking a lot to store it and to transport it. Now we're doing about 2 truckloads for every meeting. So it'd be nice to be able to put it all organized in a trailer, but we thought, if along the way, if we're doing that, let's make this a multi-purpose trailer if we can. So our goal is to have enough of a trailer that we can have a part of it for storage for our events, and then the other part could be like a mobile type hospital or mobile emergency room with medical equipment for our group. If anything happens, you know, we would have that. If everything starts to collapse and fall apart, we would have access to an area where we could you know, do, you know, triage medical type things within the back of that trailer. And then also we could use that as a communications command center. We could even have a radio equipment in there to be used as a repeater, like a mobile repeater. You know, we've already started kind of collecting some of these items, radios and different equipment, and so that would be a place to store that. So that's something that we're working on here locally, and we've already received some donations for that. For those of you that's done that, thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated, and so we're hoping soon to be able to get something like that and start the process of creating that for our local group. So that we can have access to these in case, well, things happen in the future that we might need them. All right, I know that's a really, really long intro, and everyone hates those long intros. But sometimes there's just stuff that goes on. I know a lot of you just tune in, you watch the channel because of the stuff, but we have a lot of stuff going on here locally. Hundreds of people, several families involved, and so this channel is also one of the ways that I get the information out to them. Stuff's happening a lot. The food shortages and the food supply, and then the general supply chain problems are getting worse. And not just the supply in general, but also the prices of those. I've had some emails recently from folks, and these aren't critical kind of trolling emails. These are people that are genuinely trying to understand. They say, I hear all this talk about, you know, shortages and stuff, but when I go to my grocery store, it's not that bad. I mean, there's a few empty shelves here and there, and sometimes I can't get the stuff that I want, but you know, for the most part, I can get enough food to fill my belly and to eat. Well, that's true. It's going to be that way for a while, and it may be that way for most of what we're going to go through. But here's the thing, it's not that way everywhere, okay? We live in a big country, and so the possibility of areas doing okay and other areas doing really bad, well, that's normal. That's going to happen. And then on top of that, the big thing is the price. The price of food is just skyrocketing, and the price of fuel is skyrocketing, and the price to just about do anything is skyrocketing. And we're starting to see more and more of that in news reports saying that it's just going to get worse. That the foods are going to get worse. There's manufacturers saying that they can't get certain ingredients for the things that they're making. This is not going away. This has been happening for a while, and it's actually worsening. We were told that that was just a little blip, a little speed bump in the road, and it would go away, but actually it's not. It's getting worse. With same thing with parts in general. They're either have become very expensive, and they're hard to get because of the expense, or they're just hard to get because, well, they don't exist. General Motors says that they have about 100,000 vehicles, brand new vehicles, sitting on lots in their factories that are just sitting there pretty much complete with the exception of a few parts. Some of it's chips, that there's been a chip shortage for a while, but there's also other parts. And they're reporting that their sales have down quite a bit, and other car manufacturers are reporting the same thing because they're not able to sell enough vehicles because there's no parts to keep the vehicles running. So they have these cars that's been manufactured with the exception of few key components, and they're just sitting on lots around a warehouse, 100,000 just for General Motors, and they can't sell them because of all the parts problems. There's air conditioners. There's a shortage of certain parts for air conditioners, and it's hurting a lot of parts of the country, especially down in Texas, where it's really hot right now. And you folks from Texas, back me up on that. You know, my wife's from Texas. I've been to Texas a lot. It's extremely hot right now in Texas, and you've got a long way to go before it starts cooling off in Texas. And there's a shortage of parts for air conditioners, as well as an energy shortage, and they're having a hard time just keeping the lights on in Texas and in other places across the country because of electricity shortage. These problems aren't going to go away for a while, folks. We're in this for the long haul. I said that the other day, that many experts are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 years before we see any kind of turnaround in this. That's a very long time, and countries that go through that length of time of a collapse, of a rapid, dramatic turn down in just about everything, it's very difficult for them to come back out of it. And we're at one of probably the lowest point we've been at as a nation, not just economically, supply chains, you know, militarily, in regards to respect globally, our own problems within the country, everything is at an extremely low spot. And so going through this time is very difficult. You know, the farming isn't getting any better. There's been flash droughts all across the country, the Midwest and the South. People are really struggling. Farmers are struggling to get crops up. And then, just like out of the Bible, we have biblical levels of locusts hitting up in the Pacific Northwest and around the world in other countries. South Africa's been hit really hard too, from swarms, massive swarms of locusts completely decimating farmland. So again, I mean, it's just one thing after another. There's this guy on YouTube, not YouTube, sorry, Twitter. And I follow him. I don't really know anything else about him, but I know that he has a lot of followers, a very large following, and he runs a business and a website where he does market analysis and advises people on stock trading and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, he has been talking for the last couple of days on Twitter that he believes that we're experiencing a black swan event when it comes to the markets. And I partly agree with him, but let me explain. He says for the first time, and he said he went back to the 1960s, and he hasn't seen this happen at all. Through the 70s and 80s collapse, through the dot-com bubble, through the 2008, all that. None of it happened in the way that it's happening right now. And that is that we're watching the markets collapse or, you know, make major corrective changes. We're watching the bond market do that, and we're watching the housing market. All three of them are going through major corrective changes, or some would say even a collapse. This has never happened before. Usually when the bond market goes down, the stock market goes up, or vice versa. But we're seeing over the last few months, it all kind of go down at the same time. Now, he's calling it a black swan event, and that's where I disagree with him, because black swan indicates that no one expected this. No one knew this was happening. Well, maybe not a lot of people knew this was happening, but those of us that's been paying attention to this and watching them build this house of cards for the last few years, we all knew that at some point it was going to come crashing down. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And we also know that it's not a black swan event because this is all being orchestrated. I mean, conspiracy or not, I don't care what you say. It's all being orchestrated, and that's what's happening. And the reason, and one of another indicator, we heard another indicator at least in the last couple of days, and I'll show you this video clip here. and it's a news reporter talking to someone from the White House, or speaking on what was said at the White House, and the president himself referred to this as the liberal new world order, the liberal world order. Listen to this.
Sustainable. What do you say to those families who say, listen, we can't afford to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years. This is just not sustainable.
Well, what you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm.
This isn't the first time he's said something like this, but it's definitely the most recent and the most telling, and it's being spread quite a bit online. And folks, if you don't believe that all this is orchestrated and this is all the Great Reset and that this is all to usher in this Agenda 2030, you're probably watching the wrong YouTube channel. Maybe you should switch over to another one, because this is in fact what's happening. And all these prices that we're experiencing, all the pain that you're experiencing when you're going to the pump and you're putting $100+ in gasoline, and you're buying $200 and $300 in groceries to get a cart that barely has that much in it, all that pain, it's going to last a long time, because Biden says so. He says that it's all the pain at the pump. It's going to last until it's necessary. We're going to have to keep it up until the job is done.
How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war?
As long as it takes.
This is not going away, and this is why you and I need to be preparing. You should have been doing this all along, but for those of you that's just gotten on board, for those of you that just woke up recently and said, oh my goodness, I need to get myself ready, I think there's still time. I mean, you're certainly going to have to put more energy and money into it. You're going to have to put much more focus. You're going to have to dedicate yourself to it and maybe make some more sacrifices than someone that started 5 and 10 years ago. But you can certainly get yourself ready, and you need to, because we're watching this house of cards crumble around us that's been building for years. And I can remember 15 years ago, I was telling people, I was using an analogy that it's this big bubble, this big balloon, and it, holes get popped in it. If you imagine a water balloon, you poke a hole in that water balloon, it doesn't explode, it leaks out. And they put a little piece of tape over it, and they put another piece of tape over here because another one sprouts a leak. And we did that over and over and over again. At some point, that water balloon is just going to lose all of its strength and blow. And that's exactly what's happening, folks. It's happening slow. It's not just some overnight collapse, but most things this size don't collapse overnight. I mean, the Roman Empire took a couple of 100 years for it to collapse. But that's what we're watching. We're watching that happen, and we're watching it play out because it's being orchestrated. There are people in charge flying this plane that we're in, and they are purposely crashing it to the ground. That's what we're watching, and that's why you need to get your house in order, folks. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.